So let's move from evangelizing about Scotland to more physical, factual stuff. So I'm going to use this Scotland Whiskies distilleries map. I got this from Scotland and you can get it online. I got it originally just so I could show you where different things were in Scotland, and I discovered I was looking for a map of Scotland, but what I wound up with is a map of distilleries, and I particularly like this one because it amplifies some of the whisky areas, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But for the time being, let's introduce you to Scotland. A few things. This is the border of Scotland here, so this is Scotland. This is a blow up of Islay, one of the whisky regions, and this is a blow up of Speyside, which is here, another one of the whisky regions. Speyside, a lot more density distilleries. I think there's 44, 45 here. In Islay there's 8 or 9. I mentioned earlier on that this is fairly far north, just to show you how far north. The border of Scotland here is about the same latitude as Ketchikan, Alaska. That's the southern border. It now goes up. This is Glasgow, this is Edinburgh. Those are approximately in the same latitude as Moscow, Russia. If you go further up here around, this is Orkney. Shetland isn't on the map. The Shetland Islands are up here, but that doesn't matter. There are no distilleries I'm aware of in Shetland. Up here, you're kind of in the middle of Hudson Bay. It's, I mean, this is pretty damn far north. If it wasn't for the Gulf Stream which comes across here, this would be much, much colder than it is. If you look at this, I'll just stand up for this. Doesn't it look like this was originally like that and was stretched? Well, that in fact is true, because there's a fault line goes right down here. This is Loch Ness, and this is one of the reasons Loch Ness is so narrow and so deep. But there's a natural fault here. There's another one goes across this way, but it's less noticeable because it's mostly flat here. But this one's quite pronounced, and you can actually see that the land moved hugely. This piece here is called the Southern Uplands because it's all hills and stuff. It's border country. This is Sir Walter Scott territory. They started there. And then you've got what they call the Central Lowlands. It's full of hills and stuff, but it's, relatively speaking, fairly flat. And then the Highlands and Islands. The Clan MacDonald inhabited the islands here. The leader of the Clan MacDonald was known as the Lord of the Isles. And right next door here in Argyll was the Clan Campbell, which was the Clan MacDonald was the biggest clan in Scotland. The Clan Campbell was the second biggest, and these guys had a feud that went on for 200 years. You've got two main mountain ranges. One is the Grampians, which are up here, and the other is the Trossachs. Try and say that with a few whiskies in you, which are down here. If you're ever going to spend any time in Scotland, the CH, like a loch versus a loch, is they use that expression and everything. You know, like, I don't even know what ach means. It's like an introduction to I'm about to speak or comment negatively usually. From an accent point of view, not everybody here speaks the same way. If, for instance, you start down the east coast here, down in Edinburgh, they're fairly polite and soft-spoken. As you move up the coast here towards, say, Dundee, you get more sing-songy. They don't call, like a dog, for instance. A dog is a dog here. In Glasgow, it's a dog. And in Dundee, it's a doggy, a doggy. You know, it's like, hey. As you move further north to, say, Aberdeen here, I saw a TV show once with Aberdonian fishermen, and they had subtitles because you couldn't understand a word these guys were saying. So when you get back to Glasgow, it's mostly grunts. It's more like, "Aye, right, great, see you," like Yeah, bastard. Bastard is the most common, no, the most common word in Scotland is great. So that'd be great, oh great, aye right, great. You put a bunch of things around it, but it's great. Bastard is, it's not like it is in the rest of the world. In Scotland it can be a compliment. Look at that big bastard, he's crying, oh. It's sort of in how it's pronounced, it's a wee bit like Japanese. Maybe the early Scots were Japanese or something. This thing here is Hadrian's Wall. There's another one that goes between Glasgow and Edinburgh called the Antonine Wall, but it's mostly just looks like a berm. Now it doesn't. It's not a built wall. It was more of a trench. What happened is that, you know, Hadrian built this wall to, quote, stop these barbarians from tainting the empire. The barbarians being the Scots, early Scots. A couple of hundred years go by, and this Antonine emperor shows up, and he says, "Oh, this is ridiculous, you know. We're Rome. We're not going to be held hostage by a bunch of savages. Over the top." So they go over the top of the Hadrian's Wall. They go about another 30 miles north, and he's thinking, holy jeez, he'd forgotten all about these guys. So he builds another wall across here. That wall, Hadrian's Wall, got pillaged by guys. It's still in existence, but got pillaged by guys for the stones for building houses. Same thing here, except there's more people here, so more of it sort of disappeared. Let's talk a wee bit about the culture. The culture, or the race. Race, I'm charged word these days, but the English, racially, the Scots and the English are different. I mean, it sounds bizarre from the States or Canada or Australia or someplace, but it's true. The English are based mostly genetically from Anglo-Saxons. So farmers, sort of fairly peaceful folks. The Scots are based on three different groups who are all passionate, warlike buggers. But very artistic at the same time. So you have the Celts, you have the Vikings, and you have an outfit called the Picts. P-I-C-T-S. The Picts, they were called that by the Romans. The Romans actually called them the Pitcher people, because they used to fight totally naked, women alongside them totally naked. Everybody covered and painted in a sort of blue paint, woad it's called. And they used to scare the living bejesus out of the Romans, as is evidenced by, I mean, imagine this. The Roman Empire gets to, I mean, they conquer everything. They get here and they go, wait a minute, what in the name of God's going on here? So they build this wall and then another wall and so on. So nobody quite knows where the Picts came from. They were just there. And these Irish monks used to get sent in here to try and bring them to God, civilize them, and they just disappeared. Nobody quite knows what happened to them. In fact, one of the first the first written account of the Loch Ness Monster was by one of these Irish monks. I can't remember which one. It might have been St. Brennan, but anyway, it was up here in the mouth of the loch, the River Ness. So this has been going on for years and years and years now. I think I mentioned that Loch Ness is down here. This is called the Great Glen. Not great because it's fantastic, and great because it's big, it's long by Scottish standards. The other thing I'd like to point out is that all of these islands here have really beautiful beaches. It's sort of like Big Sur. You have nothing but 2,500 miles of Atlantic here, and then these big roars come in and they pound the rocks and everything. So if you look at the east coast and the west coast, here's the east coast, nice and flat and smooth. Look at the west coast, it's just a mess. It's all, for millions of years, all these, you know, the Atlantic pounding on this. Now similarly, there's very little pollution here, because any pollution that was in the air has dropped out of the air. That's not to say the Scots don't pollute, but that pollution winds up in Sweden and Norway and Denmark and Germany as it goes across this way. but there's some beautiful beaches here. But if you ever see them with people on them, the people are wearing parkas and hats and everything. They look stunning. Blue water, white powdered sand, sand dunes, stuff called macher, which is sort of, it's like ground up seashells, and that creates a particular kind of botany on the top of the sand dunes. You don't know they're sand dunes because there's grass growing on them. And then all these beautiful, if you go at the right time of the year, all these beautiful wildflowers there. It's very nice. Oh yeah, from a legal system point of view, the law, and I mean, despite the fact this is the UK, the law in Scotland is different to the law in England. If you're a lawyer licensed to practice here, you can't practice here, and vice versa. You got to do some more work. The English law is based on Roman law. The Scottish stuff is more tribal, Viking stuff. In fact, there's a thing called the Treaty of Arbroath, or the Declaration of Arbroath. This was based on, years and years ago, these guys complained to the Pope about the English. And it was one of those things that if it didn't inspire the American Declaration of Independence, it certainly influenced it. It was arguably the first thing written down where the people basically said, hey, listen, King, we don't work for you, you work for us. And that was quite a radical change, because before that, the monarchy, the royal family, really had sort of absolute power. And finally, whisky region. So let's talk about this. So this is Islay. There's Islay. It's like a 40-minute flight from Glasgow on a wee plane, wee turbo plane. Airport's over here. Bowmore is the capital, it's there. Bruichladdich distillery is just across the bay. So this map actually shows you the different distilleries. So Islay, very windswept, you know, you get lots of gales in the winter coming in here. Speyside, a little more protected. There's about 45 up here distilleries, and they're all within a reasonable area. But you can't expect them to be right on the main roads, because these things all developed from places where they were trying to hide from the customs folks. So that's Scotland. So I would urge you to go online if you're interested and get one of these maps, because it will show you where we are. For example, up here is Glenmorangie and Tain. One of these I can't see without my glasses, but it's in that area. What else have we done? We've done Ardbeg. No, we haven't done. Yeah, we've done Ardbeg. It's down here. Ardbeg's there. So just on that bit of Islay. Anyway, that's more of the factual aspect of Scotland. I hope you found that interesting or useful or meaningful. So in summary then, my objective here was to give you a broad brush of Scotland over a wide area of sort of subject matters. Hopefully you found that interesting or informative. I would like to get some comments and questions from you. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. But from a comment point of view, especially if you're from Scotland, I'd like to know if you learned something. You know, it's one thing if you've never heard of Scotland, or this whole whisky thing is new to you, you've never been there. You know, I expect it's easier for people that get to learn something about Scotland than people who've lived there. But I'm hoping that I've covered enough stuff that even some of the people who live there learn something. And obviously I'd like you to like this and subscribe, so please hit the buttons. From a homework point of view, there's two things that I think you could do that would be meaningful. One is go on Wikipedia or something and just look up Scotland, or one aspect of Scotland you're interested in, like golf. I mean, I could point out to you some of the golf courses down here, up here, in here. They're everywhere. Just like if you buy this map, you'll see distilleries everywhere. So the lowland whiskies are sort of here. Islay whiskies, Speyside, and then Highland ones all over the place here. Anyway, so one is find out something about Scotland. The other is send me a comment on this or a question. Did you find this interesting? Was it a waste of time? Was it useful? I mean, if you're going to go there, hopefully it gives you a wee teaser about. You can most if you fly in there, you would mostly land in Glasgow or Edinburgh, and you can get there from London, which is down here, or Dublin, which is over here. See the Irish Sea. Actually, from here, from that part of Scotland over to Northern Ireland, takes about 50 minutes on this high-speed ferry they've got. But that's Northern Ireland. Anyway, meantime, get out and drink. And next time, if you can believe this, we're going in search of the world's best whiskey. So that should be fun and interesting. Talk to you later. Thank you very much.